Aikwe, Nagnamalita, and this is my channel, The Midnight Librarian. And if you didn't know, it's my birthday. So today, Monday, June 5th, is my birthday. I'm actually pre-filming this, so it feels a little off to say that. And for that, I thought it would be fun to do a kind of mix of things. I wanted to do the answering bookish questions book tag, as well as another TBR, because, you know, I didn't have enough of my last one. So I did just put out a June TBR. However, upon filming and releasing that video, I was not aware that the Tarot-athon was back. And now that I know that, I want to participate. So I'll be answering a question from the Bookish Questions book tag, which I don't know who its original creator is. So I found this video via Stories for Coffee, who was inspired by Jessie on YouTube. So it's basically 20 bookish questions that I answer. I thought this would be a fun one to just kind of get to know me and my bookish tastes, as well as, so once I answer a question, I'll pull a tarot card. The Tarot-athon, if you don't know, is hosted by Noelle from 7 Pages and Daijah from Daijah Reads. I believe that's her YouTube name, BookTube's channel name. I can't remember. I'll leave it here. Otherwise, everyone will be linked down below if you want to go check them out. I highly suggest you do, because they're probably better at explaining this than I am. But basically, the Tarot-athon is very much like my Pokemon Chooses My TBR game. It was actually created beforehand. It's one that I have participated in the past, and basically each card in a tarot deck has its own prompt. You shuffle the deck, pull a card, and that card coincides with the prompt. You pick a book based off that prompt. There are teams with the Tarot-athon, and I think there's like 8 hosts, 2 per each team. So I believe I chose Team Pentacles. I won't be choosing 20 I won't be pulling 20 cards. I'll just be pulling 10. Some of them may overlap with some of the books that I have for my June TBR in general. Tarot-athon is a full month readathon, which I'm excited about. And basically it's just giving me more books to mood read if I want them. So yeah, that's essentially all that is. One thing to note though, that I will be using my Antique Anatomy tarot deck, which is slightly different. The suits are slightly different, but it's easy enough to replace. So a typical tarot deck has swords, wands, pentacles, and cups. Mine has elixirs, rods, coins, and blades. It's easy enough to kind of like coincide them. So blades will be swords, coins will be pentacles, rods will be wands, and elixirs will be cups. So just be aware of that going in. I do have another tarot deck that I was hoping to use. It's the Seed and Sickle deck, but that doesn't have any suits, so it wasn't going to work. So I'll have to find another way to like use those at some point. Maybe if I run out of Pokemon cards, I'll use those for my prompts instead. Otherwise, let's go ahead. So I'll go ahead. There's 20 questions, technically 19 because the 20th is who do you tag. So yeah, I guess I'll just answer 2 at a time, and after every 2, I'll draw a tarot card, and we'll see what book that I'm reading for the Tarot-athon. Let's see. Question 1 is, how many books is too many books in the series? So it depends on the series. Before, I was very not committed to any books that had a series. Anytime I found out that there was a series, I would get very discouraged. So like I still haven't read the Scythe trilogy by Neil Shusterman. However, recently, like I've been wanting to fly through the TBR series by Naomi Novik, and that's a 9-book series. So I'm not sure. I think it really just I'm finding it just depends on the author and how excited I am for that series. But typically anything, like if it reaches 3, that's when I start questioning. But the TBR series, I didn't even like question. I just started going into it. So I don't know. But 3, I think, is a good number. A trilogy is a solid series. And question 2 is, how do you feel about cliffhangers? Is it part of a series? It bugs the hell out of me, honestly. I feel like if you... I feel like there's plenty of ways to end a book without having to lead the reader into the next book and making it so that it's like, I feel like your writing should be able to speak for itself without leaving out details or like leaving a cliffhanger at the end of a book, making the reader anticipated for your next book. I feel like it's kind of, to me, it feels like cheating. I understand that it's a writing choice and that some people really enjoy it. I, for one, just don't enjoy it. I feel like your writing should speak for itself. So that's how I feel about it. So we'll go ahead and mix these up. This feels weird. It feels very reminiscent of my Pokemon chooses my TBR. I'm just not going to do sound effects. Okay, first one is inverted. That is the King of Coins. So, okay, so this would be the King of Pentacles. Let me find the... Okay, the King of Pentacles is read a book with an unreliable narrator or a villain's point of view. So this is going to have to be the villain's point of view because if you know me, I do not like an unreliable narrator. I don't like that trope at all. So to read a book with an unreliable narrator or a villain's point of view, I think I'm going to put The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I've been wanting to reread, sorry, I don't know why I looked over there. It was actually up here. I've been wanting to reread The Hunger Games, but at the same time not. It's one of those things where it's like I enjoyed it when I first read it, and that was years and years ago, and it's just this fear that it won't hold up. I've been curious about this one, but from what I understand, this is like following Snow's point of view, which is a villain, correct? So, I was still hesitant to pick this up, just because I didn't feel like a need for it. It feels like a lot of the books that came out around the same time, Twilight, Hunger Games, etc., are just kind of milking it at this point. But I don't know, I'm still curious about it, so I may end up. Question 3 is hardback or paperback. I am a sucker for hardbacks. I love hardbacks. I know that they're kind of a pain in the butt to read while in bed, comfortably. They're a little heavy, but ultimately I love their durability, mostly because I stick I stick my books in my purse all the time, and it devastates me when a paperback ends up getting folded. I know that there's ways to prevent that, book sleeves, etc. I like a good hardback. I don't know, the weight of it, it assures me of its presence. Question for favorite book. Oh God, do we have time? My favorite book right now is honestly The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. This one I gave 5 out of 5 stars. The only thing I don't like about it is the cover. I'm not a fan of this type of art style. However, the story itself is really cute. We are following Mika Moon, who is a witch and in the UK and grew up with the understanding that witches can't hang out with each other. They can't be friends with each other because when witches get together, magic ensues, and regular humans, bad things happen when magic ensues because regular humans can't handle it. So to cover up that she is a witch, she pretends she's a witch on YouTube. She ends up getting discovered by a group of people who want her to come tutor 3 young girls, because they are also witches. This group of people are kind of this found family that reside in this estate that belongs to a witch that's an archaeologist who's gone all the time. So the groundskeeper and his husband are the ones that believe that Mika is in fact a witch. The housekeeper is kind of one that holds them all together, and there's a cranky librarian who thinks this is a bad idea because he has fierce protective traits. And of course, the cranky librarian and Mika end up falling in love with each other. So it was just really cute and really magical. There was magic in it. And I've been trying to find another cozy witch book ever since. And I'm kind of just chasing this one. So yeah, that and the narrator for it. I did listen to this via Libby or Libro, I can't remember which. But the narrator was fantastic. I think it was Libby. And the narrator was fantastic. I often wonder, like, it's not that I read a whole lot of books with kids in it, but it feels to me that, like, just adults have a hard time narrating kids, but the narrator for this one, I can't remember their name, I'll link it here or put it here, did a really good job. Each little girl felt like their own unique character. Like, their narration style was so different from each other. I absolutely loved it. So okay, next pick. Another inverted, but it is The Moon. Read a book that explores the supernatural / paranormal. Okay, I think it's easy enough to choose a witchy book for this, and for that I'm going to choose Her Majesty's Royal Coven for The Moon. I did already... Wow, that text is like huge. I was a little intimidated by the size, but the text in here is like huge, and the margins are pretty big, so it should be fine. Sorry, I just, the smell. But yeah, I believe this is Secret Coven of Witches, known as Her Majesty's Royal Coven, that protect the crown and the country from magical forces. But there's a great enemy that comes from within. Whispers of a prophecy for young witches. Can they stop the prophecy before it's too late, or will their differences pull them apart like it has since they were young? So that's what I'm choosing for The Moon. Question 5, least favorite book. I won't have it with me, so I'm trying to... there was a book that... I always question if I really should say these, because, like, I don't want to give them more airtime of sorts. But let's see. Like, I have a couple. Okay, so I got to my 1 stars. So 3 right off the top of my head that I just didn't like at all. Dorothy Must Die by Danielle Page. I know that this is a huge series that people tend to love. I did not. I remember reading this several years ago and just hating it. It felt like fan fiction. Like, there was no real danger. Everything just kind of happened. It just felt ridiculous to me. So I never understood why people love the series so much. Neurotica by Eliza Gordon is another one that I just did not like. From what I understand, from what I remember, this was also one that I read several years ago, and it was like, there were so many, it was supposed to be a romance. Oh, I remember. This woman was trying to get over her like, she had a hard time talking about sex, about anything intimate like that. So her therapist suggested that she write about it instead. And so she ends up like accidentally becoming a famous writer, because she ends up writing this book, this smutty book, and her best friend and her roommate ends up publishing it, and she becomes a really big hit right off the bat. She pretends that her best friend's the one that writes it, and she's just promoting it. She's just the agent or whatever. But, like, she ends up meeting this guy and, like, going on dates with him, and, like, I think they live up in Portland. But then, like, there were so many things that, like, it was the miscommunication trope, which I absolutely hate. That if it's done wrong, and I know that people have questioned, like, well, yeah, if it's done wrong, then, like, nobody liked it, but it's just like, I think how it's done wrong or right is very subjective. What works for me isn't going to work for everybody. This did not work for me. It doesn't mean it's not going to work for everybody. This one did not work for me at all. The fact that, so like I remember the love interest making it a big deal that he didn't want to be lied to because he was cheated on before or something like that. But it's like this woman was really just not comfortable talking about sex, and like the fact that she wrote a smutty book, like she didn't want to admit that. And so when someone calls her out on stage, of course, of all places, while he was there, like he made it seem like it was this big deal, and like broke up with her, and that was the third act breakup, and it was just ridiculous. I hated it. I hated him for it. I didn't like, after that it was just like, no, they shouldn't get back together, no whatsoever. There was also this irritating part where they included a Native American legend that was done wrong. A simple internet search of that particular nation says that their legend was wrong. So the fact that the author didn't even bother searching correctly for this and made either that or purposely romanticize the legend to make it seem more dramatic was just ridiculous to me. So I hated this book. There's also Mosquitoland by David Arnold, and I have a review of this one, so go check it out. So those are 3 that I disliked, that I like gave like 1 star. Like I hated them. Usually when I don't give stars at all, it's usually because I don't want to give my thoughts away before actually talking about them. But 1 star, I'm just like, nope, hated it, was a waste of my time. So question 6, love triangles, yes or no? It's another one of those things, if it's done right. And like I said, how one author does it right, it isn't gonna work for everybody, right? So like, I never thought that The Hunger Games was a love triangle, mostly because it's like, I'm sorry, you wrote it as if Grey was her cousin. So in my mind, that's off limits. Even if they just say they're cousins, I'm like, nope, no chance. PETA has it. I never read Twilight, so I can't really go, but like that whole thing, just seemed very over dramatic to me. Damn it, my battery light is flashing. But yeah, I haven't read very many books with love triangles in them, and so far they haven't worked. So I'm gonna say no, hesitantly, until an author can convince me otherwise. Okay, next pull. In reverse again, The Star. The Star is a graphic novel or a manga. So I've actually been wanting to reread the series because okay, sorry, my battery died. Okay, so yeah. Question 7, the most recent book you just couldn't finish. I DNF'd a couple of books in May. And there was a couple that I wish I just didn't, I just should have just DNF'd. Let me look and see. Oh, the most recent one was Cackle by Rachel Harrison. I just couldn't get into the main character. She was not like connecting with me, and I'm sorry, that has to be something with main characters, which is that's what's making me a little nervous about the Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes. The main character in Cackle was just not for me, and like I didn't like how her friendship was working out with the witch. The witch was already seeming very manipulative, and I just didn't like it, so I DNF'd it. 8, a book you're currently reading. I am currently reading In the Company of Crows and Ravens, which is one that was on my June TBR to begin with. This is a nonfiction from 2005, and I say that because I'm like 20% in, and it has some language in it that I'm like not approving of. They end up saying a derogatory term from Inuits, and like, it's still a very interesting book. It's just, because of that, it feels outdated, and it makes me wonder just how much of their information is out of date. But so far it's really interesting. So the next tarot, that is 8 of Elixirs. So the 8 of Cups. And the 8 of Cups is read a book that explores moving on or embarking on a new adventure. Let's go with this one. So for 8 of Elixirs, or 8 of Cups, embarking on a new adventure or moving on, I think this is a bit of both, and that is A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. From what I understand, this is a trans author, and we are following a young Felicity who is back at Dalloway School, perched in the Catskill Mountains. The century-old ivy-covered campus was home until the tragic death of her girlfriend. Now, after a year away, she's returned to finish high school. She even has her old room in Godwin House, the exclusive dormitory rumored to be haunted by the spirits of 5 Dalloway students. Girls some say were witches. So more witchy content. Love it. So yeah, that's what I'm doing for 8 Elixir. 9. Last book you recommended to someone. I feel like it would have been you. What book? Oh, so my student assistant. So I do work in a university library with interlibrary loan, and I do have a student assistant that helps me out a lot, and we've been connecting. Well, they've worked for me for a couple of years, so like hopefully we were connected at some point. I don't think they trust my taste yet in books, but they trusted a coworker that we had that no longer works with us. And so after telling them like, yes, I've read these books that they've recommended, you should definitely read them, now they're really excited to read them. So I'm sure this coworker like told them before, like, yes, this is really exciting, like you should read these, and like they kind of went, oh yeah, totally, sure, and like kind of forgot. So like me reiterating, like, now they recommended it to you, you should definitely read it, I've read them. I don't know if the whole I read them part really matters or not, but but that was Naomi Novik. So The Last Graduate, as well as, was it The Last Graduate? I think it's The Last Graduate. Is it not The Last Graduate? No, A Deadly Education. That's what it is. As well as the Temeraire series. So, question 10. Oldest book you read, publication date. I thought this was going to put them in order. So just kind of looking through my read books briefly, I thought that putting it in publication date would put them in order, and for some reason it didn't. But just kind of browsing through them, the one with the oldest publication date that I can see if I can find it again, which doesn't feel right to me, is The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka from 1972. But I thought that Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit were published before then. I'm pretty sure they were, so I want to say them, because I don't think Goodreads knows what it's doing. But yeah, that's what I'm going with that. I'm gonna say. That is the five of blades. So 5 of swords. Read a book where the main character needs to deal with their past. I feel like that would easily be The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. I say easily, but I'm not entirely sure. It sounds like, so Clara Densmore is an Everwitch, and Clara has to deal with the fact that witches have maintained the climate, their power peaking in the season of their birth, but their control is faltered faltering as the atmosphere becomes more erratic. All hope lies with Clara, whose rare magic is tied to every season. And I feel like there was something in her past because like her magic ended up making her lose someone, but she's the only one that can really save people currently. So she has to choose between her happiness and doing her duty, I guess. I don't know. That's what I'm choosing for that though. Which was also my regular June TBR. Newest book you've read in terms of publication date. I guess that would be Happy Place by Emily Henry. I have a full like rapid fire review coming out for Emily Henry here in a couple days. It actually meant to go up in May and then I ended up having surgery. So, so hopefully I can get that up here shortly where you will hear more of my thoughts. So overall though, enjoyed it. Question 12, favorite author. If you don't know by now, Robin Wall Kimmerer. Typically with authors, I don't call them a favorite until I've read at least 3 of their books, and I have absolutely loved them. Robin Wall Kimmerer only has 2 books out, the Gathering Moss and Raining Sweetgrass, but they both have impacted me enough that I enjoy her work, like no question. Will buy any book that she like publishes. Otherwise, Elizabeth Acevedo is another favorite author. I've read most of her books. I think there's a couple I haven't read, but overall have read more than 3 and have enjoyed all 3, like all of them that I have read. So she's a favorite. Yeah, there's a couple of authors that are like on that precipice where it's like so close that I would consider them a favorite, but at the moment that it's not quite there yet, so I'm not really counting them. But those are the 2 that I can think of right off the bat. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who else gets up there. Seven of Elixirs, 7 of Cups. Pick multiple books and blindly pick one from the pile. Blindfolded partner picking or annual picking. So I did this last time with Book of the Month. Ouch. Was it for... it must have been May the 4th Read With You Readathon. That I did something similar. But basically taking 3 Book of the Month books that I've been wanting to read, and I will mix them up. And pick one. Actually, not the one I actually thought. I thought I could feel the difference, and I could not. So this is Lone Women by Victor Laval. I have not read from them before. A woman with a past, a mysterious trunk, a town on the edge of nowhere, embracing new vision of the American West. Oh, this is the author of The Changeling. Adelaide Henry carries an enormous steamer trunk with her everywhere she goes. It's locked at all times because when the trunk opens, people around Adelaide start to disappear. The year is 1915 and Adelaide is in trouble. Her secret sin killed her parents, forcing her to flee California in a hellfire rush and make her way to Montana as a homesteader. Dragging the trunk with her at every stop, she will become one of the lone women, taking advantage of the government's offer of free land for those who can tame it. Except that Adelaide isn't alone, and the secret she's tried so desperately to lock away might be the only thing that will help her survive the harsh territory. So, I think I've had this, I don't remember if I had that on a TBR before or not. 13, buying books or borrowing books? Buying. I definitely prefer buying, just because like I said, I like the heft to them. I like knowing that I don't have a time limit to read them. I understand that I could renew. I understand that I can re-request them. But it's still someone else's. I personally like to keep my books on my shelves as trophies once I read them. If I like them, that's one thing I get borrowing has its place, and I do enjoy borrowing if I'm not sure if I necessarily want to pay full price for a book, or if I'm just not sure about the book in and of itself. But I still enjoy buying books. It's definitely a whole nother hobby to reading books. I just enjoy it. Okay. Question 14, a book you dislike that everyone seems to love. So I can go back to my reading. One book that I didn't mention in the book that I disliked, books that I disliked, or my least favorite book. I guess Dorothy Must Die may be considered for that, but I haven't heard much about that in a while. But one that I did not enjoy whatsoever is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I kept hearing good things about this series, that yes, the first one's better than the second one. The second one kind of the Muse of Nightmares kind of drags it down. I even have I'm in a book club at work that someone said that they just finished the Muse of Nightmares and they really enjoyed it. I hated the romance in Strange the Dreamer. I could have dealt without that. I hated it so much to the point where, like, by the end I'm like, nope, I don't care what happens in the second book. I just didn't like it. I liked Strange, and I kind of enjoyed the story, but ultimately it was just not for me. So yeah, as soon as I finished that book, I got so mad at it, and which I'm kind of glad, because I remember like specifically wanting the specific editions of that book and not being able to find it. And so immediately was just like, as soon as I was done with it, sold it on Pango. I did not care anymore. So yeah. All right. 5 of Wands, or rods, but wands. Read a book that features competition or conflict among its characters. The last word would work pretty well with that. We are following a woman who is house sitting in Washington, I believe. Emma Carpenter, yeah, is living in isolation with her dog Laika. She ends up reading a book and posting a little review about it, only to end up in an online argument with the author himself, which she thinks is really weird. But then like weird things start happening at this house that she's house sitting for, and she's wondering if the author, it's too coincidental to be like anything but, like she's wondering if the author would go so far as to stalk her. So I think that's a conflict. So that's what I'm going to choose with 5 of Rods. 15, bookmarks or dog ears? Bookmarks. I don't mind dog earring. It's one of those things where it's like, I mean, within reason, right? I don't mind like a small dog ear here and there. Like, don't bend the whole freaking page. Like, come on, be reasonable. I know that my family kind of pokes fun at me going, oh, don't dog ear the pages. Melita's going to get real upset. And it's like, I really don't. Like, I was perfectly fine when my partner broke all the spines to the series that shall not be named. When he read them, he felt real bad, though. He got me a new set. Just cause like I just am careful with books. I try to be careful with books anyway. That's why I prefer hardback to paperback. Sometimes it just can't, sometimes it can't be helped. But I mean, I'm not gonna like flip out if someone dog ears my book. I mean, egregiously, then yes, but like, I have a friend that loves the sound of breaking book spines, so that, yeah, it's slightly, I'm never letting my books out of my sight, but dog earing is fine. Excuse me. But I personally like bookmarks. Question 16, a book you can always reread. I don't reread very often, like, at all. There's only one book that There's one or two books that I've reread, but one that I do really like rereading is The Hobbit. It does have some fat phobia in it, which you can say is like the product of its time or whatever, but I'm still upset by it. But ultimately I still enjoy The Hobbit. It's a fun book. I enjoy the adventure of it. It's the same with the movie. I like them both equally, for different reasons. It's just fun to reread. So yeah. Okay, this is The Chariot. Read a thriller. Okay, so that's one thing too, is that for the Tarot-athon, you can't double up on prompts. So I already picked my thrillers. So I guess with that, I will go ahead and pick one of the other ones that were in the Book of the Month blind pick, and that is What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall. Naomi Shaw used to believe in magic. 22 years ago, she and her two best friends, Cassidy and Olivia, spent the summer roaming the woods, imagining a world of ceremony and wonder, the goddess game. The game became an obsession and a refuge for the three girls. The sanctuary was suddenly shattered when Naomi was attacked. Miraculously, she survived her 17 stab wounds and lived to identify the man who hurt her. The girls' testimony put away a serial killer wanted for murdering 6 women. They were heroes and they were liars. So, Chariot. Question 17. Can you read while hearing music? It depends on the music. I love listening to lo-fi or classical. Anything without like a, anything without like a good beat or lyrics that I know and I could easily like repeat. I have a hard time with, because then it's like my brain catches on that and I want to do that instead of reading. I am fine listening or reading a book in silence as well. And occasionally I can read a book while like a TV is going on. I used to be really good at that. But now like, yeah, I don't mind some music. It just depends on what kind. So definitely without a good beat and definitely without some good lyrics. 18. One point of view or multiple point of views. I kind of like one point of view, or like where it's is it third person, where we're kind of just looking at everybody from no one in particular's point of view, like the narrator is its own thing. Otherwise I prefer just one point of view. In all honesty, particularly when it comes to like romance, I don't really care for the other person's point of view, because I think, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I prefer the one point of view. I kind of get disappointed. If there's too many, I get confused. Yeah, there's some books that have like 4 more people and I end up getting real confused and dizzy, and it's just like, no, I'm good. So one point of view, or like we're looking at all the point of views. Then The Devil. Oh, I know what the prompt of this is. I just watched someone pull this too. Read a book that you know has mixed reviews. I could just go with this one. Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. I've been wanting to read more Sarah Gailey's works. I think I've had a couple of their works on my TBRs before. I don't remember if this one was one of them or not. This is their most recent release, and I've heard mixed things about it. So Just Like Home is... oh, sorry. Come home, Vera's mother called, and Vera obeyed. In spite of their long estrangement, in spite of their memories, she's come back to the home of a serial killer, back to the face the love she had for her father and the bodies he buried there. Coming home is hard enough for Vera, and to make things worse, she and her mother aren't alone. A parasitic artist has moved into the guest house out back and is slowly stripping Vera's childhood for spare parts. He insists that he isn't the one leaving notes around the house in her father's handwriting, but who else could it possibly be? So I've heard mixed things about this, but I think this is the one I want to go for, so that's going to be the devil. Okay, and last question, question 19. I get that there's 20, but the last one is just who do you tag. Question 19 is, do you read a book in one sitting or over multiple days? Multiple days. Like, even if it's an audiobook, like, it tends to be multiple days. I'm not the quickest physical reader, like, by any means. I actually feel relatively slow comparatively to other booktubers, but that's one thing. Please don't compare yourself to others. Who you really should be comparing yourself to is yourself. But it's like, I think because I'm so used to the booktube scene, that to me, a couple days is still a long time to me, or even like a week. But when talking to other people who aren't reading all the time, when, like, I just recently had a friend ask going, how long does it take you typically? I'm like, it takes me a while. It takes me like a week. And she's like, that's a while. Because she's just like, it takes me months. So, like, I think we're okay. So yeah, it takes me a couple days. Okay, so last card. I'm still kind of hoping for like coins. Come on now. Boom, there we go. 2 coins. So that'd be 2 of Pentacles. Really hoping this one wasn't already pulled. So there is another like prompt to this as well, in terms of each week the teams get their own pull of a card and have to do that. Read a book where the character faces a big decision. How am I supposed to know that? Okay, this might have one. So I think I may choose the 7th Raven. I've had this for a bit. Oh my god, this font is huge and there's illustrations, and this is going to be a really easy read. Is this poetry? When Robin and his brothers are turned into ravens through the work of a curse, their younger sister is the only hope for them to become human once again. Though she's never met them, April is determined to restore her brother's humanity. But what will become of Robin, who has discovered a much greater affinity to the air than the earthbound lives of his family? The 7th Raven is filled with powerful messages that can only be teased from the timeless themes of fairy tales. This beautiful retelling shows us the costs of unintended consequences as well as the gifts of transformation. So I think this is like the retelling of like 7 cranes. I don't know. But yeah, that's a good short little book. Okay, that is the end of the questions and the end of the tarot deck picks. That's definitely increased my TBR for the month. But like I said, it's more like mood reads. I can already tell you that I am not feeling the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. But I don't know what other book I would No, I know. So, instead of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes for the King of Coins, because I am not feeling that, I can tell you that right now. How about we go with How to Kill Your Family by Bella Mackie. Yeah? This one, it still has a Pokemon card in it. It was on a TBR before. They can't say, they say you can't choose your family, but you can kill them. I have killed several people, some brutally, others calmly, and yet I currently languish in jail for a murder I did not commit. When I think about what I actually did, I feel somewhat sad that nobody will ever know about the complex operation that I undertook. Getting away with it is highly preferable, of course, but perhaps when I'm long gone, someone will open an old safe and find this confession the public would reel. After all, almost nobody in the world can possibly understand how someone by the tender age of 28 can have killed 6 members of her family and then happily carried on with the rest of her life, never regretting a thing. So I think this is giving me like Is it Tender as the Flesh? Not that one. Which one is it? That one with the woman that is a food critic that turns cannibal, and she ends up like eating her exes. A certain kind of hunger. That's what it's giving me in a way. So I think like our protagonist is very morally gray. I've had this on my TBR before. I still really want to know, and I'm more interested in this than I am in A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes right now, so this is what I'm going with. So yeah. So that is now my TBR for June. That hurt my wrist. Including a couple of other books that I had on my original TBR that I couldn't figure out if I was putting on here or not. So that's quite a big stack now. Yeah, if you've read any of these, let me know your thoughts down in the description or down in the comments down below. No spoilers, please. Otherwise, guys, let's see, I want to ask you one of the questions that I answered. What should it be though? Oh, let's ask that. How many books is too many books in the series? What's your answer to that? If you made it this far, thank you so much for sticking with me. I know this was a long one. Yeah, otherwise, give it a like, this video, like it, subscribe if you have yet to do so already. Otherwise, I hope that you're in the mental mindset to enjoy your reading, and I hope to see you in another video very soon. Chew.